As you just heard on this show, we talk a lot about the next generation, how we as community leaders can best equip our kids. Now, this organization is doing just that. We're so thrilled to have Candelen on board this season as partners, and joining us on the main stage, I'm going to go through the introductions here. We have Program Director Angela Tapia. We have Kavita Bernstein. She is the VP of Programs and Impact at Candelen. Carrie Main, she is an FFN caregiver and specialist. We'll explain what FFN is in just a minute. And Sarah Kwok, help me with your last name. Quafish? Kafisha, I was so close. You're a parent, and you're going to be telling your story with us in just a minute. So thrilled to have all of you here, and I want to start with a couple of numbers to really set the stage for what we're talking about, because what we're doing is we're tying childcare and workforce development together in a way that many have never really thought about before. So here's a couple of statistics. Right now, 40% of Arizona children are in licensed childcare. So obviously the rest are not, that's 60%. And then when it comes to care for children ages newborn to 8 years, it's estimated for more than 50% of parents, their ideal childcare arrangement would be in their home, even if a parent was not present. So that's meaning cared for by a family member or friend. And that is where Candelen comes in. So with that, Kavita, I'd love for you to briefly explain the mission, what Candelen does.
Great. So Candelen provides a number of programs that support the quality of childcare. So childcare could look like a licensed childcare center or facility, or it could look like what we call a family, friend, or neighbor caregiver. So I'll explain that in just a second. And to do so, I got to tell you a little bit of a story. Ready?
We love stories.
Okay, story time. So back in the 90s, there was a study to answer the big question, which is, where are children that are age 5 and younger in the southern part of Phoenix? And what that study found is that for young children whose parents are in the workforce, they're actually at home. But you might be wondering, well, they can't be home alone, right? So who is with them? And they found that the majority of children under the age of 5 are at home with a family member. That might be an auntie, an uncle, a grandparent, an older cousin. They might be at home with a really close family member and a friend, right? A friend of the family or a neighbor from down the street. You saw the data, right? So if you flip it, 60%, yep, 60% of kids are actually at home with a family, friend, or neighbor caregiver. And we call that FFN. Gotta love the acronyms. And so we created a program in about 1999 called the Kith and Kin Project. And it really provides training, support, and education to FFN caregivers, because in the state of Arizona, and actually it's nationally, FFN caregivers get the least amount of support. They're not as eligible for financial support, professional development, and training. And so that's where the Kith and Kin Project comes into place. It's one of our longest running programs and one of the national providers.
Excellent. Let's talk about this Kith and Kin program. You're essentially equipping the caregivers. As you mentioned, it's grandma, it could be, the neighbor down the street. You're teaching them, you're giving them these licensed, these tools to help them in their environment, have a better environment there at home. And so, Carrie, you are an FFN caregiver, so family, friends, neighbor. Tell us about your journey and why it's important for you to now provide the program to others.
All right. So my journey caregiving began about 20 years ago when I was a teenager. I cared for my nieces while my sister was working evenings and on the weekends. I continued throughout college when I was caring for a friend's children. Thinking back to then, knowing what I know now about quality caregiving, I realized that there's a lot I didn't know. I knew the basics, change their diapers, make sure they eat, things like that. But I didn't realize the extent of knowledge caregivers needed in order to provide education, brain development, all those different types of things. So I actually went to school for education with a concentration in child development. And I was a kindergarten teacher for a few years, both online and in person. It really shocked me once I learned about Candelen and specifically their Kith and Kin program. I realized that even with that education and child development background, there was still a lot I didn't know that they were offering to people. So about a year ago, I left teaching and I joined the Kith and Kin Project. I was drawn to just the benefits that they offer caregivers and children. One of the many things I love about this program is that not only do the caregivers get to learn and interact with one another, but the children get that same opportunity. We offer a play-based childcare. So while the caregivers are in class with me, the children get to go to the childcare and they get to interact with other kids, explore, play, and it's just amazing to see their growth from, when we first start, the very first week, then when we graduate, the growth of both caregivers and the children. In my role teaching family, friends, and neighbors, or FFN caregivers about child development, I like to emphasize the individuality of the children in their care. My goal is to create an impact in each class that is specific to the unique needs of every caregiver. We also offer, the classes are very interactive in that the caregivers get to work alongside each other. They build these connections, these support groups. They offer advice to one another, and it's just amazing to see that these connections, they didn't know each other, and after 8 weeks, they are friends, even after the session ends. So it's truly been rewarding witnessing the impact that the Kith and Kin Project makes in the community, and just to be a part of that. I have had past participants come to me and tell me just how grateful they are to have been able to take the program and their confidence as a caregiver, knowing that the quality of care they provide is so much more now, and they can see that in the increase of development in the children.
Thank you, though, for sharing that story, because it was similar to what Liza was talking about, where someone's offering, DEI training, and Liza, I'm good, I got this, and you're like, I can change a diaper, I got this. But it's amazing how much you didn't know. And so, Sarah, as a parent, how important is it to you see these benefits of programs like this paying off for you?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Eric. I have 2 children, so my daughter is now 12. And my son is 8, and my daughter started out in traditional childcare, and up until she went into kindergarten. And my son also started in traditional childcare. By the time he was 3, I became a single parent, and I started to look into FFN care. At the time, I was paying more in childcare than I was in rent, so it was very appealing to me. So I had a really great friend who was friends with this wonderful family, and she recommended them to me to see if my son would be a good fit. And so I met with them. They were wonderful, and for the next 2 years, he was well loved and taken care of by this family while I was at work. And so I think I had a really great experience, and I attribute a lot to that because I had a choice. I know a lot of parents don't have a choice. Sometimes it's just like grandma, grandpa have to watch the kids, otherwise I can't go to work, or I can't put food on the table. And so I really appreciate the Kith and Kin program because it not only gives FFN providers training and education that you would see in traditional childcare, but it also gives parents the extra assurance that their children are being taken care of and well loved.
And what you just said is where, Angela, I'm going to bring you into the conversation, is workforce development. If that's not available, she's not going to work, is what she just said.
Absolutely, and for many parents, for many parents like Sarah and others, access to quality childcare is a workforce issue.
Right.
One of the main factors to have a thriving Arizona economy is to have that parent's confidence, right? To know that they have access to quality care, but to know that their children are being cared for in a safe and nurturing environment while they're at work. And although FFN caregivers can provide that peace of mind, they're not generally seen as part of the childcare system in Arizona. As an example, here in Arizona, the state of Arizona invests so much more money into licensed childcare versus FFN care. So by supporting and recognizing the value of FFN caregivers, it cements this type of provider or caregiver as part of the workforce here in Arizona.
Yeah, and this is the first a lot of us are hearing about this and understanding the importance of it. So Kavita, a lot of leaders have come on this stage before and referenced things like food deserts, education deserts in our state. And then when we're on our pre-production call, you said childcare deserts in Arizona. Talk about that as we close this conversation.
Yep, absolutely. So childcare deserts has a national definition. So it is any area of a state that has 50 children or more and no childcare providers, zero, zilch. Or for there's 3 times the number of children than there are childcare slots. So in Arizona, according to the Center for American Progress, 48% of the state is a childcare desert. So it's essentially like half, right? But this is where I wrestle with the term childcare desert, and I invite all of us to wrestle with the
right
same.
room to do that.
Yep. Is that in any childcare desert that exists, I bet you there are FFN caregivers that are providing nurturing, loving, learning environments that are high quality and that where parents like Sarah can have their children in. And so, when we continue to use this word childcare or the phrase childcare desert, which by the way has policy implications, financial resources, support programs, it inherently invalidates the type of caregiving that Carrie provides and others that provide the same type of care. And so at Candelen, you've heard it, that we want to be able to support people like Sarah who have that choice. They have the choice to either put their child into a licensed childcare center or FFN caregiver. And what we want to be able to do is no matter where parents feel is the right place for their child to be, that we can provide the training, the support, the education to be able to support the quality of those caregiving environments.
And you guys are a large organization, right? Tell us quickly.
Just a little bit. So yes, we are quite large. We have programs here in Arizona, and we also have programs in Nevada as well, and we are statewide. So yeah, we are very large.
So you know the drill. You've got this room full of community leaders here. What's the call to action? What's Candelen's call to action?
Yeah, so you might be thinking to yourself, I think I'm cut from the same cloth as these people up here. And you see and you recognize that childcare and FFN caregiving environments are key to workforce development and economic development in Arizona. Perhaps you hear the stories of Carrie and Sarah and you see yourself in that story, whether it's your own children, you as a child, and if you're thinking the same things that we are, call us. Yeah. Let's go out for coffee, let's have a conversation, and let's see what magic we can make happen.
Well, thank you guys for opening us up to those ideas. Round of applause, please, for the team from Candelen. Excellent job.